Hey everybody, welcome to Building in the Metaverse 101 with Parcel. So you might be able to infer from the title, but this session is going to provide a ton of invaluable insight into how to actually get into the nitty-gritty and build and create in the Metaverse. So essentially, we're going to try to pinpoint what goes into being a successful creator. And lucky for us, we're joined by Hard, who is one of the most recognized metaverse-centric creators. And so this is going to be really awesome and a real treat. So Hard's going to live stream his building process for us today while fielding some questions from myself and from you guys, the audience. So if you have any questions about life as a metaverse-based architect, the onboarding process, or how to actually start building in the metaverse and the tools or skills that are involved in literally building out an entire new ecosystem, feel free to pop your questions into the chat. We'll see them and then we'll try to get to them. So I'm Melanie from the Parcel team, and I'll be moderating this session. And so this session is really a meshing of Parcel's mission. So of putting a spotlight on creators and educating people that are looking to onboard and all metaverse participants. So on top of hosting a marketplace for virtual real estate, we've also launched the Creatorverse, which is essentially a LinkedIn for creators, for Web3 and metaverse creators. And then in tandem with that, we've got Parcel Learn, which acts as a hub of education for different metaverse participants. So Hard, I'm going to give you a chance to introduce yourself in just a moment, but I want to highlight a few things that I've noticed since I began following your journey. And so it seems to me like you've made a few things clear about building and being a creator in Web3 and the metaverse. And that's that there are three principles such as mindset, drive, and mentality. So you run a metaverse architecture firm where you produce immersive digital experiences on platforms like Mona, Spatial, Decentraland, you name it, you can do it all. And you're also co-founder of a fairly recently launched NFT project called Rare Panthers, which is sold out. So congratulations on that. And, I'm going to pass it off to Hard now and stop talking. So Hard, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your overall, more zoomed out mission of Hard Architects?
Yeah, thanks, Melanie. My name is Hard Architects. And I am a metaverse architect in Web3, and I joined around September 2021 during my final year of architecture school. And I guess like my overall mission with with metaverse architecture in the Web3 space is to basically highlight an area in which that I felt was really lacking, which I felt that, through like Sandbox, through CryptoVoxels, through Decentraland, that, there are a lot of opportunities that architects can really, I guess, like take advantage of and really showcase what they can do and bring to the digital world that hasn't been done yet. So I would say like my goal is to educate and to try and, I guess, be more expressive in the metaverse architecture field.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think that's a great leeway into what we're about to do. So let's, start building. So Hard, I've got some questions for you, and then you can answer them while you sort of start the building process. And then at the end, we'll discuss what it is that you end up creating and generating. So if that sounds good, we'll just get ahead and move in with the questions.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Awesome. So, first off, I think it seems fitting to ask, what are your thoughts about what you'll be building for us today? What should we be expecting to see?
Yeah, so what's funny is that I actually didn't prepare anything I didn't plan to build anything today. Like I knew that I was going to be building today, but there was no, there wasn't anything that I like prepared prior to this. And I kind of just want to see what happens as we're building. Maybe like things might change as like I'm getting questions, or maybe like my mood might change as I'm building this. But overall, I kind
Yeah.
of want to show everybody the process that I go through to build a metaverse space, and you can kind of like take from it, learn from it, and then if you have any questions, my Twitter handle is like at my like on my face at Hard Architects, so you guys can
Yeah.
just DM me, and I'll try my best to like DM everybody back.
Yeah. And that's awesome. And I think that is really cool too, because now we get an extra insight into literally your thought process as you ideate a build and how you go about that process too. So, just going on, I started personally learning a bit about 3D design, and of course I started with the donut tutorial. And so
Yeah.
for any yeah, for anybody that's listening in and doesn't know, the donut tutorial is the tutorial that a bunch of people use in order to like start learning the basic tools that you need for 3D modeling. And then
Right.
it just got me thinking, hard, like how did you learn how to build in 3D? And, it sounds like you went to architecture school and all of that. So what was that initial process like? And, how did you, yeah, start to grasp the tools that you need?
Yeah. Well, first off, I think it's super funny that you brought up the donut tutorial because I just recommended the donut tutorial again like this last week. And if you guys like talk to anybody who does 3D modeling in Blender, I would say like the donut tutorial is like a rite of passage that you just have to do. And
Right.
it's kind of like not right for you to jump into Blender without doing the donut tutorial. Like you have to do it. And it's like important that you also recommend other people to do it because it's just like it, I don't know. It's just the thing that you do right before you start 3D modeling. So for me, because I go to architecture school, I was already doing like 3D modeling there, but I was predominantly doing 3D modeling in like SketchUp,
Mhm.
Rhino, Revit, super like I guess like conventional 3D modeling softwares that architects use in like the day-to-day practice.
Right.
So for my school, it's super experimental. I go to SciArc, the Southern California Institute of Architecture here in Los Angeles, and
Cool.
the type of architecture that they teach is it's kind of like it's like termed as like avant-garde. And I already thought like some of the spaces were really extreme. So that's when I saw like what was being built in like Decentraland and all the other metaverse platforms. When I was seeing what was built, I was thinking like, has anybody tried being like the mad scientist of Decentraland or being like the mad scientist of like I don't know, spatial, and
Right.
I got really excited because I felt like there was a opportunity for somebody to step up to that plate and say, "Hey, we don't have to build super like modern, like modernist, like cubic homes, right? Like,
Right.
there's a way for us to really challenge like the limitations that each software gives us, and really showcase, what we can build. Like, for example, for Decentraland's Fashion Week, I
Mhm.
remember that we were talking about designing a catwalk for Decentraland. And I knew that a lot of people's catwalks during Fashion Week were going to be on the ground.
Right.
And so I challenged my team to design a catwalk that actually like spiraled up in the sky and like had people like teleport off of the site as their catwalk, which was
Right.
like, yeah, which was like a super like interesting thing to me.
No, that's awesome. And it's so true, from talking also to some um, architects that switched over to Web3, like I've heard people say that first of all, they're not governed by gravity anymore. And then
Yeah.
second of all, it's like they're more like outlandish projects that had to, be shelved, or the ones that they're pulling out and bringing to the metaverse, which is really awesome. And I think that a lot of people are excited about, that. And so you kind of tapped on it, but for someone that's just initially coming into the space, what are some like main tools and skills that they should start building up before they work on, let's say a bigger project? Like, what do they need to have as an infrastructure?
I would think that, oh, can I start building right now
Yeah,
too?
yeah, yeah, exactly,
Okay.
for sure.
Okay, great. Yeah. So, real quick, before I answer that question about like the
Mhm.
basic things that you need, Right now, I just have Blender open for everyone that isn't familiar with the software. And when you start opening Blender, you're actually going to see like a cube, a light source, and then a camera. So I took away the camera and I changed up the light source a little bit. And now I'm just going to delete the cube. And then from
Awesome.
here, I'm just going to start building floor plates to try to like start organizing my space. And typically when I start building, I started often plan like from a sky view. So that way I can organize the space the way that I want. So yeah, so I'm gonna just start building and then
Yeah.
I'll start answering the questions. So what I think that people need in order for them to start off is first, like a really fun way to start doing this is jump into Decentraland, jump into Spatial, jump into everything like that's out there, Monoverse, Crypto Voxels. I don't think you could jump in the sandbox, but like jump
Okay.
into these spaces, right? And just start running around or visiting like these spaces and just take a look around and just start looking at the smaller details of what's going on. And then you'll kind of get a sense of what each space can offer you and what each space like does really well. So some spaces might look more realistic than others, some might look super fake. And that's just the parameters that you're working with. So as a basic principle, you would have to first get like a palette, like a taste of what's out there, what's being done. So then when you actually like start coming up with your ideas, you would know what your boundaries are. And then you can start imagining from there. Because if you want to design like a dragon in like um if you want to design a dragon fully like high res that belongs like in Lord of the Rings, like in Decentraland, it just doesn't work. You'll probably end up with like a Pixelmon version, like
Right.
of the dragon. No hate on any NFT collections or anything like that.
No, no, I hear what you're saying. And, I give people the same advice when they're just asking how to actually onboard to the metaverse. And then the first thing
Yeah.
you usually hear is that they haven't really gone into a virtual world yet. And so I'm like, that might be a good place to start. And then people can start, generating their own concepts of what it actually is. And
Yeah.
so, yeah. And, with you have a lot of projects going on by the looks of it, and we sort of tapped on that. And so I'm also curious to know a bit about like how you keep yourself organized and how you manage a project, because it looks super clean from the outside in, but I'm sure you have so much that you need to like track.
Yeah. Um, how do I keep myself organized? I would counter that and say I don't keep myself organized as like a
Gotcha.
funny joke. But I guess one of the ways to stay organized is to I have a lot of sticky notes
Mm.
and I have a lot of them and I keep notes on my phone as well. So what I actually do or like what I try to do on a day-to-day basis, and I think my wife would like counter this if she was going to speak up about this, is
Yeah.
that it's important that we kind of check those lists and check off those tasks almost like religiously. So
Mhm.
you should have like a task list of like what you have to do for the day, like probably like to a fine detail, like step by step. And then after that, you would have like a task list for, let's say, like the week, and then you'd have a task list for like the like a long term, like for the month. And you have to
Right.
constantly check that like every day and just make sure that you're on track to finishing up these projects.
Right. So starting off a little bit more micro, day to day, zoomed
Yeah.
in tasks, building it out. And so, you kind of told us how you made the switch to the metaverse. You got a little bit interested in it, started building. And were there any, roadblocks that stood out to you or just obstacles that you had to kind of, circumnavigate just during that process? Or, was there like a steep learning curve? What did that look like? Did anything pop up and you were like, I need to address this?
Um, I think the only thing that I had a challenge with was the unity aspect of things.
Mm.
So when you develop a metaverse space, you have to like once you 3D model it, that's like one part of it. The next part of it is like to actually like gamify it and bring it into software like Unity to, you know, to actually make sure that it works. And thankfully, you know, shout out to the guys at Mona. They've made the process like super easy for people to get this done. So, which I'll actually show everyone too is once I jump into Unity, you know, I'll import or like I already imported the Mona package in there, and then from there you would build the metaverse space from there.
Oh, nice. So yeah, we can tap into that later then, because I'm curious to know like how did Mona make that a little bit easier for someone like you that's creating a space. So let's say when you started off creating for metaverse builds versus where you're at now, um, like how has that evolved? Has your like stylistic preferences changed a lot? Because I know if somebody sees one of your builds or one of your NFTs right now, like honestly, I can recognize and say, okay, that's probably made by Hard. So it's become extremely recognizable. But has your style changed throughout this process?
Yeah, I would say that the process has gotten like a lot better. I'm trying to think. Yeah, because when I first started off, I was actually like, so I guess like my style is like it's always up in the air, right? It's never like grounded, which is like super funny because during my first competition with during my first competition with Mona, I actually like saw like some of the builds that were being done, and I was like kind of like, oh, this is too normal, you know, like this isn't like, you know, extreme enough. I wanted to like see more extreme like builds. And I like started this kind of like term where I was just kind of like why are we building on the ground? Like, you know, there's no gravity. Why can't we just build in the sky? So like I literally built like my first metaverse space in the clouds, and the entire architectural space was in the clouds. So I would say that my style has like is like just been evolving from that to where it's been just becoming more and more like fantasized up in the air. So like I've just been trying to get better in bringing like more architectural elements into the space and just trying to like add in more effects through like different like shader graphs and different HDRI techniques. So I'm just trying to get better at those things to try to like I guess amplify the feeling of my space.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And I think that's also it's like there's this kind of like renaissance going on right now because there's just a redefinition of the literal like rules that govern architecture and what can be built, right? Just like building in the sky, that's normal now, and that's actually what we should be, perpetrating and moving forward with. And so, you know, I guess maybe you tap on it, but at the same time, I'm curious to know like, is there someone that inspires you, or is there, some sort of stylistic like movement that you're interested in that sort of like influence your personal technique, or
Yeah.
is it just very hard?
um I would honestly say like I'm still developing my style till today, and sometimes I don't know what my style is. Like, and I think that goes for like any artist in the space. Like we always have that self-doubt, like, am I copying somebody or am I doing my own thing? Am I really building like what I want to build, like, or am I building like a version of what I think other people would approve of? So it's like that's a constant battle that I'm constantly dealing with as I'm building metaverse spaces. Like what am I doing? Like, is this architecture or am I just building stuff and I'm just like fighting it so hard that it becomes architecture? Um, so I mean, for me personally, like the people that I'm influenced by are like artists like Daniel Arsham or 6 and 5
Yeah.
Studio, which if you guys don't know, like 6 and 5 is like the background of my like green screen of my Zoom just because I love them so much. So yeah, I would love to like I guess like be in the same realm as them and like even be able to work with them one of these days.
That's awesome. And yeah, no, I for sure know Daniel Arsham, not personally, but I follow him on different, platforms. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. And this floor is becoming really cool. So maybe you want to spend just a few minutes like walking us through what you're doing and like build along with us.
Oh yeah, yeah. So if you guys saw in the beginning, I started off, I said that I was building out floor plates, right? And most of my spaces are like radial, which means like I use like circles. And uh I started off by creating a circle and I was kind of struggling a little bit because I forgot like the process in which like I do this. But I created a circle and I cut it in half and I extruded it so that now you have like this central like plaza for people to like spawn in, for people to like play in. It's for whatever they want to do in it. And now I'm kind of building like the outside spaces, like what goes beyond this main like gallery space. So and all I did was I made more like floor plates and I just kind of multiplied it and scaled them differently. So now it looks like a cluster. And if you guys like look at like my Twitter account or you guys look at my foundation, you would actually see that this would be an ode to the first metaverse space that I ever did. So if you look at the sky view or like this plan view right now, this is actually like what my first metaverse build looked like, but in 3D. But now it's just being translated back to 2D. And I just think like that, like even then, it still makes a very interesting project, like even though it's flat.
Yeah. No, it looks awesome. And that's a great, that's great lore. So always love that. And so what would the next step be in this process? Like maybe you want to show us that.
Yeah, so the next step for me is like I'm just making sure like this works, like this is interesting enough for me. So
Mhm.
I'm kind of like maybe this is like the architect in me, maybe this is the artist in me. I'm not exactly sure, but
Yeah.
now I'm looking at how these things start to overlap, and like if
Mhm.
this overlap is too much for me, or if it's
Okay.
under for me. And then after I do this, I'm going to start making like an outer ring for each of these platforms. So then that way it's kind of like something is holding the platform. It's not like it's just concrete flying in the air. It's concrete
Great.
with like metal that's holding it up in the air. So it's like a slight elegance to it. Yeah.
Great. That's really interesting. Like, so under is going to kind of be like protruding metal that's holding up the structure, but it's still not based on the ground.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. And I thought that was super interesting point you made. It's like the architect in you and the artist in you. Sometimes maybe those clash together, and it seems like
Hmm.
you know you put a lot of pressure on yourself to produce like the perfect build. And so we definitely appreciate that and see it in your work for sure. And you mentioned your first project, your first space, and talking about previous projects. Can you tell us a little bit about like some prior, work that you've done? Because I see you, posting on Twitter sometimes that you visit these places and you're working for some cool people. And so maybe you want to tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so a lot of the times when I'm working, I just like ask myself, like, what am I doing here? You know, just building for these projects. And because one of the things that kind of shocks me about like, when I work is that I still go to school. So it's it's weird to have to go to these meetings or go talk to people who ask for my advice on like building something in a metaverse. And I have to finish my homework for the class that's like an hour right after my meeting. And it's like it's a weird like it's like a weird mind thing that I constantly like deal with. But some of the
Totally.
like the projects that I've been like grateful enough to work on is the Woody's NFT project. I'm currently working with them right now. I'm the metaverse architect for Waconomy. I was picked up to do metaverse work for Harmony Protocol. I've
Right.
designed spaces or space for Filecoin. And then I was recently in discussion with working with IMAX to get a metaverse space done as well. But that one kind
Wow.
of fell through.
Got it.
So yeah, so there's like a lot more projects that like I've been like grateful enough to even like talk to the guys about. And so I'm just like grateful for even like just having these conversations with them, because I know that like I'm doing something correct or doing something right to at least have these
100%.
conversations. Yeah. And if I could at least like guide them or help these projects in any way to like make sure like, we're providing something to the metaverse rather than like me doing the job, like I can, it doesn't really matter for me. Like, if I do the job, I just want to make sure like we're doing something, in
Right.
terms of like elevating the metaverse.
Totally. And I think that is maybe like the main reason why you're so successful. Like a lot of people, and I'm not saying that, so many people do this, but a lot of people focus on like extracting value for themselves. But like in every single project that you just spoke about, like you focus on bringing value and adding value to the metaverse. And that's, super important because it literally has to be built out. And so, I think that's really like an awesome sentiment that you share. And someone from the audience just asked, do you start from a sketch or do you go straight into 3D modeling? So is it an idea in your head and you just put it right into, Blender, or do you sort of start off with sketching it out?
That's a great question. I'm actually happy someone asked, because that was the process that I
Yeah.
couldn't that was the process that I couldn't show today, just because like everything was super digital. But if it was in person, I would actually like want to do a sketch for somebody, like to show people like exactly what my mind process is. And like this is just for class, this is just for my classwork. And let me see if I could like see it. But this is just for my classwork today. But basically, like a lot of my sketches, oh, you can't see it. All right, well, you get
But
well, you,
we
yeah,
saw it for a second, so we get it. But yeah, so
yeah.
tell us about your classes.
Yeah, so the process is like, if I think about like an idea, and I could be influenced from like music, I could be influenced from stuff I see on my Twitter feed, I could be influenced from like, I don't know, something that I see while driving in LA. And I think about that as like a concept like graffiti. Graffiti was a concept for me a little bit to
Yeah.
build a space. And the way that I start is I start sketching, like sketching in a way that is kind of like unprovoked, like like you just sketch, like you sketch to where like you're not even going to do anything with this sketch, so you have like the right to do whatever you want. And then you can just draw like random shapes, random, like sometimes my like ideas are really just like a swoosh, like just a swoosh on the page,
Yep.
right? And then boom, you just add like a little person in there and it's architecture, right? And then like
Yeah.
that's the process. Is I start sketching like that, and then once I have that done, that idea, I kind of like start googling like the mood board from there, and try to
Mm.
like try to grasp onto like what people have done, so then I could try to figure out how I could do it better, or maybe borrow from that or learn from that. And from that point on, that's when I actually jump into Blender, and then I start building. Today is like one of the first days where I'm actually jumping into Blender first, and I'm just like building things out. But I do feel like if you jump into Blender first, you're more constrained,
Hmm.
because like you might get stuck on just making something super simple when you could have just sketched it out like in half a second or 1 second.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I see what you mean, and it is interesting how yeah, your typical process is, you have a sketch, and that sketch like enables you to like flourish in Blender. And so it's all the more impressive that right now you're, freestyling this and going with it. So that's pretty cool. Um, so, you on Twitter and just in general, like metaverse community, honestly, people know the name Hard. And so you really like built up a following. And I think in the metaverse, it's very important to have like overlapping core values with like metaverse citizens, let's say, and then
Yes.
also have that like entrepreneurial like acumen in order to like talk to businesses and work with them as well, because you're sort of like, talking to two very different like subsects of people. And so I just wanted to know, like, how did you go about that process of like, you know really enmeshing yourself within the broader community and like gaining that trust, and then bringing that over to these brands. So go with
Yeah.
this question however you might, because this is a pretty
Yeah.
big question, but would love to hear about that.
No, I actually like that question a lot because when people ask me like, how do I jump into the metaverse? How do I do what you're doing? It's like such a
Right,
difficult question because in reality, it's very, very difficult, but it's
right,
not impossible. That's the thing that, if you're willing to put in the work and you're willing to put in the time to like actually make your voice matter, then people are going to notice that. Because I have friends that like have won competitions. I have friends that build every day. Shout out to James, shout out to Triple. um
mm,
and it's like everybody has their own path in the metaverse space right now, and it's just up to you to decide like what do you want to do with it. So if you want to get to the point where like you want to make this your actual like career, or you want to like try to really pursue this like in all seriousness, then one thing you have to really remember is that like what do you believe in, like what do you believe the metaverse should be, like
right,
what do you like, what's important to you. And like once you establish what's important to you, you should fight for that, and you should really like project that out. Because what was important to me, like in the most simplest terms, was I was saying like screw gravity, right? That was my thing. Like I was like,
right,
why is everyone building on the ground? This is like, I don't like this. Like, this is too normal. So I was jumping into Twitter spaces like talking like that, like to other metaverse, anything that was metaverse related. I kind of jumped into those spaces and just kind of
right,
told my piece. And then that like ended up with me, like meeting other people who are like, oh man, I really want to build a metaverse space. And another thing that got me started was
hmm,
I knew that I had like an idea of what I wanted to do. Like I knew that from the jump, that
hmm,
like I have a concept that I think would really work for other projects. But instead of like waiting for somebody to come to me and like tell me like, hey, this is a really like, like we want you to do our metaverse space, I approached
right,
people. I approached people like unapologetically in Twitter Spaces and under DMs, and told them that like, hey, I think that your NFT project could really use a metaverse space like this. And I would basically like describe the whole like metaverse space to them. And if they liked it, they liked it. If they didn't like it, then they just ignore me. But that's how I landed like my first two jobs, which was with Woody's and Waconomy. And I honestly both I went into both projects not asking for any money, just because like I just wanted to show people, like just for somebody to give me a chance to show them like I have good ideas, and I just want to show you guys. And like by you letting me show my idea, I'll do it for free. Like I like that's my mentality for it. And then they ended up both like fighting for me to get paid anyways, because they felt like it
right.
wasn't right for me to work for free. And because I like did those projects, or I'm still working on like both of those projects, it led me down the path that I am right now.
That's really awesome. I think you put that extremely well, because you went in with a creative strategy and with an idea, and that's what you brought to the table. And then you told it over to people unapologetically. And so, also, some things that I've noticed is that, a lot of times people will not have that like creative strategy going in, but that's also like what set you apart, that like
Yeah.
invigorated people when they heard about the gravity. And it's worth
Yeah.
mentioning, Dave Carr, who's the head of BD at Parcel, is also obsessed with this point. Like every time we talk to people, he says, like, guys, forget about gravity. We're not governed by the rules of like traditional architecture anymore, and there's
Yeah.
so much that we can do. And then let's say like it's a brand we're talking to, they will literally like their eyes will light up. They realize, wow, there's like a new way that we can go about this. And then also when, if somebody wants to make a new build and put it on their like land, on their
Uh,
plot, they don't have to, close that build for construction. They can have,
right.
the creator make the build and then still have their build be open to the public. And I think that's also like a game changer, because they don't need to close. And so, yeah, I don't know. Those are really cool points to me. And so your build is getting even cooler as we speak. So maybe you want to just like walk us through it again and just tell us what's going on.
Yeah, so I just let me just make sure that this makes sense. All right. Okay. I don't know why it looks like this, but it's fine. Yeah, so what I
Looks
did was
intentional. So
yeah, I meant to do this actually. Yeah, forget what I just said. Yeah, so what I did was I made these outer rings for each of the platforms. So then
right.
now I'm just adding like a little middle part, like a middle part of the plaza, and like maybe yeah, I'm gonna do like middle parts for like the major circles, and then I'm gonna change those to different materials so like there's a different contrast. So in total, I'm gonna be using three different materials, which is just uh like this material, this middle one, and then the metal. So like it shows you like you don't need like a lot of material knowledge for this. You don't need that much work. Like it could be like the same technique. Like I literally use the same technique throughout this whole
Mm-hmm.
thing. Like there's nothing that would take you like more than one tutorial to do this whole space. Like you could probably
Wow.
just watch this video again, or like I could just describe it to you real quick, like you know how to do this space again. And it's really not that complicated, like in terms of how many steps there are. Like
Okay.
yeah, like earlier I was actually trying to remake the rims for this, but instead of remaking the rims, I literally deleted the whole thing and just copied this one and brought it back down.
Oh,
But it's,
awesome.
yeah, but it still looks like it works.
Hmm. So, I mean, it definitely looks like it works, and I like how it looks like a little stage. Each individual component just makes it stand out and give it a nice look. And so, speaking of just proposing like builds that you would make for different companies and for different projects, somebody just asked in the YouTube stream if you were tasked to build or ideate a build for CoinMarketCap. You know, what would come to mind? I guess if you don't spend too much time thinking about it, what immediately pops into your head?
Yeah, because like for me, I would if I had to like really take a broad step back, right? I immediately see like different shades of blue, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like blue sand or blue accents for this space. And then I see a space where like it's not necessarily like a gallery, but it's a space where like people have to come together and almost jump to other metaverse spaces because it's not about like just coming to CoinMarketCap and like that's it. It's about like what CoinMarketCap could do for you, right? So
Exactly.
I would actually like create like a hub rather than a gallery. And then the hub would actually act like as a central like meeting space for people to jump into the metaverse to CoinMarketCap. And then from there, set up portals and have them and then like design other metaverse spaces or give other artists the opportunity for them to design their own metaverse spaces to contribute to the coin market cap metaverse system. So then that way everybody can have like that little bit of like that bit of experience. But yeah, that's what I would build is I would build a actual like a hub for them in the metaverse and not like a gallery.
That's awesome. And it sounds like you spent time and put like a creative brief together for that answer. So it's pretty
I
cool that you
have yeah, I
came.
have the proposal right here, sitting
Yeah,
right next to me for them just to waiting for them to DM me.
he came ready. So yeah, it's also cool that you don't just look at it as like a static request, but it sounds like you take like the mission and what the actual brand stands for, and then that's how you extrapolate what you should actually bring to the space, and that's also really important and super cool. And so I actually like I'm just thinking about previous thing you brought up in this space, and so what was the significance of your original space and your original content? Because it sounds like it still holds true to you and you still are inspired by it, which is awesome. So I just love to hear a little bit more about that story.
Um, yeah. So, you're talking about like my first ever metaverse build.
Yeah, the one that this is inspired by.
Yeah, the they're like the reason why it holds true to me is because it's not only like my first metaverse build that I was like able to do, but it was kind of like the start of my journey in the metaverse field, and it was like the start of me getting to meet amazing people like the Mona team, or like and all the people and all the Mona like community that I know today that I'm like pretty good friends with. I would say like we're pretty good friends. I don't know, they might feel differently. Like,
Yeah,
like,
I'm
like
sure they feel the same. Yeah,
like, oh, I'm so sick of this guy Hard always talking about not
yeah,
liking gravity. I like gravity.
right.
It's like,
Like Hard's too good, can't deal with it.
no, I love talking to the Mona guys. I love being in the Mona Discord because you know, we just hang out and like build on live stream with each other
Hmm.
sometimes. And if we have problems, we kind of just shoot that at each other and just tell people like, you know, hey, I'm having this issue. Are you guys having this issue? And then someone will just say like, you know, yeah, this is how you fix it. And it's like, it's a really tight niche community.
Right.
And then, yeah, so it holds really close to my heart because it reminds me of like the first thing that I did and where I came from in the metaverse space and where I like
Right.
where I am now. And like that build was featured like on Forbes, right? That build
Oh wow.
was, yeah, it was like that build was just kind of like it was showcased every like in other places because Mona like and I like just became like cool like that, you know, and it's just like something that was really cool to me to see. And I think because of that build, it brought me to South by Southwest. So I was able to speak on the
Hmm.
panel at South by Southwest. And then I had class the next like day or 2 days, and then I had to like fly right
Wild.
back. Yeah, and like I didn't tell anybody at school like about it. I didn't tell like my teachers. I didn't tell nobody. I was just coming back like super exhausted. Like, hey, did you finish the assignment? And I was like, yep, here it is. And then it's like, oh, you pulled like it looks like you're like you pulled an all nighter, and it's like, yeah, kind of, like,
Kinda. I just did it on a red eye. So
yeah,
yeah, no, that's really cool. And it sounds like, some of the points that stand out to you, like in the broader community, is that it's like so tight knit and people like, it's not really competition. Cause in a lot of like the more traditional fields, if you're working and someone else is working on like an adjacent project, a lot of times like you don't want to share those ideas or collaborate. But like in the metaverse, everyone loves working together for the most part. And so,
yeah.
what was that like for you? Just it's a really cool thing that's going on.
Yeah, I'm actually happy that you brought that up because that's another thing that people like should realize about Web3 is that um it's not about what can I get out of it, it's about what we can get out of it, right?
Right.
And the more time that you spend focusing on other people rather than yourself, you're going to actually see a lot more happen to you. And
Yeah.
that's something that I learned. Um yeah, that's something that I learned from like from the very beginning. And even like from the second competition that I was in with Mona, I was like extremely happy to see all my friends win, even though like I placed like 25, but I felt like I won first place like 8 times, like looking at
Wow.
my friends win. And I was like so
Right.
ecstatic off of that. Like I had to park the car. I think I was driving and I had to park the car like just to scream into my phone. And it was just like,
Whoa.
I don't know. It just and then I realized like too at that moment that it feels great to be a part of this community. It feels great to be a part of you know, just to see everybody that you kind of came up with to see them win. And I think that's what Web3 is about.
Right. It really is. It's like about growing together and then also everybody's like learning together too. So we're trying to figure out this space and to build it up. And I think that was really eloquent actually. And then just a little bit of a shift in questions here. We've got a question from Asher. So he's curious to know about like materials. Maybe this is one of your friends, but he wants to know about like materials that you like to use, and do you prefer natural material looks?
Yeah, it was super funny is like when you said material, I thought about that the famous song, but I don't want to say the title of the song, but I'm sure like
Okay.
other people
Yeah,
are thinking about it too.
it's probably in
Um,
my head now.
yeah, right. And then yeah, when I choose materials, I usually choose like I really love color a lot. And so I like specific combinations of colors and I like shades of colors. So I
Mm.
usually choose materials almost as like the textural component, but sometimes I like to switch off the actual color of the material, right, and edit it in Photoshop to like something that I like. So for example, right now I'm using a concrete texture like for the actual concrete right here. But what you
Right.
don't know is like I actually tinted it to make it white and pink instead of gray because that's the
Right.
color tone that I like. And then like right now the gold is like this really like sharp gold, and then I'll just change it to like I don't know, this soft pink or something.
Wow. It's really
Yeah,
interesting. I feel like it's mesmerizing to watch. We can just like get stuck, watching and lose track of time. Um,
yeah,
but no, that's really cool. And it sounds like you use material actually to like amplify the color, and to bring more attention to the color. So that's cool. And actually, we have a question from Samson from the Parcel team. I'm assuming at least. So, how many projects have you collaborated on with other creators, and maybe how do you find people to work with? Like, if you go to one of your friends and say, "I have a sick idea," or "I'm working on a project," like maybe let's leverage, what we're able to do and do this together. Like, how does the collaboration process work?
yeah. I've actually haven't collaborated a lot. I think one of the projects that I actually collaborated with on the Metaverse space was with Andre O'Shea, which is like a really good friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also working on a project with Stones the Organic. If you guys don't know who they are, you guys should follow them on Twitter. Their handles are exactly what I just said, Stones the Organic and Andre O'Shea. And that process is actually really interesting because that's one of the first times that I collaborated on a metaverse space with anybody. So working with like pure artists, it's interesting because when I send them over my metaverse space, I might think like, oh, this is so great. I hope he likes it. And like I'll send it to Andre, and then I'll say like, Andre, like it's so great. You should check it out. And Andre, being the artist that he is, he's like, here's a list of everything that's like wrong with it. And I'm like, I didn't think about that, like I didn't think about any of these points. And it's crazy that he pointed it out because I thought it was perfect. And then when he sent back his notes and I like made those changes, it was even better. And it's just like a process of going back and forth. And I think just being able to take like that criticism, like, from the other artists and just like kind of like unshame, like unlike just
Right.
letting them speak to you about it in like their most polite way is like you getting better as well because of that project I actually learned a lot. So then now I get
Yeah.
to move on to it. So actually right now I'm actually done with the build.
Oh, awesome.
This might look super basic to people, but once you see it in the space you're going to be like, I get it. But
No, it
one of the
looks
tech
awesome. Yeah.
oh, thanks. Yeah, one of the techniques I like doing now is instead of having like just solid shades of different colors, I
Yeah.
just incorporated like gradients of colors into my space. So you can see how like these inner parts are actually like a part of like one gradient, but it
Mm,
like kind of transitions throughout the space. So
yeah.
um let me see
That's
if I can
really cool,
actually
actually, how the circles actually follow the gradient as well. It's not just like on the main platform.
yes. So like I'm actually lifting this up a little bit because I realized that I'm not gonna do one of the things that I like to do. So I'm
Mhm.
just gonna actually move this up in the air a little bit more.
Okay,
Let me see. And then after this, I'm taking it straight into Unity. And then from
cool.
there we'll get to see the build pretty quick.
Okay, awesome. So then, yeah, while we get this ready for Unity, um, is I don't want to take your attention away from the build, but do you want to plug any of your socials or let us know about projects that you're working on? Because I think it's definitely the right move. Let people know where
Yeah.
to find you, how to find you, what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, so of course, my handle is Hard Architects. That's hard and then architects with a S. And that's pretty much the only place that I feel comfortable with sharing, like people finding
Sure.
me. And you could basically like keep me like if you want to message me about learning more about working together or any of that, I'm pretty open to those things. You could DM me, you could tweet me, and just let me know. And I like we'll try to find time to talk about it. Um, and yeah, like I'm actually working on a really big project right now with a really group of amazing artists that I can't talk about, and it's I don't know, it's so exciting because I've always looked up to these people like throughout my whole life, And when I found out I was working with them, it was just kind of like who am I to like who am I to work with these people? So yeah. So yeah,
So we should
that's
stay tuned.
yeah, you should
That's the
definitely stay
takeaway.
tuned. Yeah, because like around June, I think I could talk more about it.
Okay.
But yeah, so what I did was so usually you can export all these like into
Hmm.
FBXs or OBJs, but I actually saved this file into my Unity file already by putting it into the file folder. So all I have to do is literally just save the file, and I don't have to like really import anything. And
Okay.
then from here, I'm just going to go into Unity now as it loads up. And then this is Unity for you guys who don't know. And I
Awesome.
just loaded up the Mona space. And the Mona space comes with this portal, this guy to test out your space, and then a floor. So then right now they're blue and green to show you like the space works. You can run on this floor. If I delete the floor, you can see how like they're red because there's nothing for them to stand on.
Hmm.
So
Gotcha.
yeah, so let me just pull this out real quick.
Cool.
All right. How are we doing on time? Are we almost done?
Yeah, we've got just a few minutes. So while you pull that up, I'm just going to mention, if anybody also is interested in learning more about Parcel and about what we do, you can find us at Parcel NFT on Twitter and parcel.so for our website. And that's also linked in the comment in the description right here on YouTube. So, on our site, it's pretty holistic. We got a virtual real estate marketplace. We've got Parcel Learn if you want to learn how to, be a participant in the metaverse and, learn about the pillars that govern it. And then we've also got the Creatorverse, which is basically built in order to amplify creators, such as Hard, like everybody. We want to just showcase you guys and what you're building and connect people. So yeah, we want to be, the facilitator of connections in the metaverse. And yeah, it looks like Hard is pulling this up. So that's great.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just pulling out all the materials that I need just to bring it back into Unity. I'm
Cool.
sure like more Unity experts are like judging me on the way that I'm doing this, but I'm just doing this just because I know how to do it faster like this way rather than like probably the correct way of doing things. So let me
No,
just
this is good.
okay. Yeah, so all I'm doing right now is just bringing materials into a folder that belongs to Unity. So then that way, once all this stuff is like in this folder, it will update in Unity, and then I just attach those materials back into the project.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. So we're coming up on 8 minutes left. So that should
Yes,
be perfect timing.
yes. You guys are gonna see my browser and everything in a second too, which is gonna be like super
Here,
weird.
we'll
Okay.
look away.
Yeah. So let me see.
Cool. And yeah, so I guess just for a few more seconds, Hard, while you pull that up,
Yeah.
um, Parcel also has some really cool things in the pipeline. So you might want to stay tuned for that. If you're a creator and a builder, or even, a team of builders, we will be having something very cool for you, where you can, work on a build, showcase the project, and maybe earn some prizes. So I'm not disclosing too much, but I think you guys catch my drift.
Okay. There's
So
the
this is Unity now.
yeah, so this is Unity, and I'm just plugging like a lot of my materials in, and then what you would see is why is it like that? Okay. Crap. Okay. Yeah, so this is just Unity, and I'm just bringing like
Sure.
I'm just attaching a lot of the materials back into it.
Very cool. So it's
Hmm.
nice to also just watch the process.
Yeah, I'm like trying to figure out why. Okay. I'm surprised that this took me like a whole hour to do. I think it was just because we were talking the whole time.
Yeah, I think this was super conversational, and I think people definitely learned a ton. I myself like learned a lot, and so I can't imagine having to build also while having that conversation. So,
Yeah.
bravo for that. And so then also you could see like the scale of the build just with those people over there.
Yeah, exactly. And it's super big.
Right. This is huge. And so like what you were saying before, I think it becomes so much more like easily appreciated once you show us the build in its environment in Unity, just because we could see like the sheer lack of gravity to it and just like the size and the dimensions, all of the material.
Okay. I wonder if I can even upload this in time for 5 minutes, but I mean, you guys can get to see like, I guess what it just looks like here.
Yeah.
And then I think from there, you guys can get an idea. Once I add the
Yeah.
HDRI map, you guys are gonna be like, okay, I think this actually works really well. But
this looks super cool. Even if you think it's going to take too long to upload, like maybe you want to walk us through what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, so what I'm doing right now is I'm just attaching like all the concrete materials like to where they need to be, right? So you kind of like get an idea of like what it would look like, right? And then from there, and then here, I add the pink sand texture. So that is here. And then we do the ground.
Very cool. Yeah, no, this is really cool to see. I feel like especially if someone's not so used to like the building process like myself, like it's really cool to see this happening in real time. And I don't even know how you did this in an hour. You're saying you don't know why this took you an hour to do, but
yeah, it's like that's a really long time for me, which is like
really,
yeah, which is not that great, but yeah. I think it's because we had like a fun conversation today. That's why.
yeah, no, totally. I was just saying that, I was thinking the opposite way, where this, if I was asked how long do I think that somebody spent on this, I would say definitely more than an hour. It's really cool. This does also remind me of something that, yeah, we would see in maybe like a fashion week or some sort of event.
Yeah. So I'm actually almost done. Once I add the HDRI in there, everyone's gonna be like, okay, I kind of see where he was going with this. And then like hopefully that looks better.
It looks really cool. So hard, just so you know, we're coming up on 2 minutes.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
And then there's just one part that I don't like, and I'm just gonna take it out real quick. Completely. I'm gonna take that out, and then I'm just gonna go back in here and just export this OBJ downloads. Okay.
Cool. So also everybody that's watching, you're getting real insight into what it's like, to work with the deadline and to, really bring the build to fruition. And so
yeah, like this is literally like what happens when you have a deadline, and it's like people would get to see what it looks like in live, like live, and then this is like the client asking you like to turn it into them like immediately, and they need it like right now.
Great. So hard. One thing, we're gonna have to wrap it up in just a few moments. I don't mean to cut you off, but maybe you want to just show us this real quick. Oh wow, that is wild.
Yeah. So then now the space is done.
That is so cool.
Yeah. So you see how like the HDRI really makes that big of a difference. Like once the space is. Yeah, and then after this, you would basically just add all your mesh colliders and everything, and then you could actually run around this space and enjoy the sunset with your friends in this like new digital space.
Wow. So everybody just take 1 second to like bring this in. I feel like I'm in the middle of a video game right now. Like these graphics are pretty wild. And so, just to wrap it up, first of all, thanks, big thanks to Hard for coming and showing us his process, for taking the time to show us like how he can build, what goes into it, and then like how to bring it to fruition, and all of the things that he really finds value in the metaverse. And so this has been really awesome. I suggest you guys go check Hard out and check Parcel out. The link is in the description, and have a great one, everybody. I think we're going to end the space.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.